We're taking just a moment before we begin. Ladies and gentlemen, our CRA Director, Ben Junkie, has had to leave on a family emergency unexpectedly. He's just taken off with his, I believe, his father-in-law. There's an emergency. So give us just a moment and we'll be ready to proceed, okay?
I shouldn't joke like that, right? Because when it comes up, something's going to happen. Something's going to look. Russell gave him the idea to become king. Oh, you made him mad. He may be looking for a new channel.
Order. Can you, everybody hear me? Yes. At this time, I'd like to call to order the September 11th meeting of the CRA Board. But before we begin with the item number 2, we had to cancel our, and I'll mention this again in the commission meeting, but we had to cancel our September 11th Patriots Day ceremonies this morning due to the inclement weather. And I just wanted to, and I'm sure the rest of the commission joins with me in thanking all of you who are here now, our police officers and our police chief, our fire chief, our first responders, and not only them, but Maria and Bobby and the rest of you who were out yesterday, Commissioner Friend, out at the sandbag station and doing those things that all of us do for our neighbors. So thank you so much, all of you, for what you do. And hopefully we can do something a little later in the year to recognize all of our first responders again and our retired military, our veterans, our active military as well. So thank you. Moving on to item number 2, is there a motion for the approval of the meeting minutes from July 25th, 2017?
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Are there any questions or discussion about the meeting minutes from July 25th? And there appears to be none. Are there any questions or discussion from the public on the last meeting of the CRA, the minutes? There appear to be none. Okay. Mr. White, would you please call the roll for approval of the minutes?
Yes, ma'am. Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes? Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes, and so the meeting minutes are approved from July 25th. Old business, the discussion and possible action regarding the CRA plan update and the addition of reuse water. Is there a report on this or any discussion from the board? Is there a motion that we take action regarding the CRA plan update by adding the reuse water?
So moved.
What exactly are we voting?
Yeah, that's the.
on?
Okay, this is the addition to the CRA plan update, the addition of reuse water, and I don't know if there is a report on that.
I can give you a little information on it. And I do apologize.
even in here.
I do rely on being a lot with the CRA. A lot of this is try to use reuse water within the CRA. The issue that we have is the cost associated with bringing the reuse to the CRA area because there's no infrastructure. So I think the CRA as a whole is wanting to make sure that you, as the board, the committee want to make sure that y'all is aware of, we're trying to look at all different ways of using reuse water. Unfortunately, right now, this is not a feasible project.
And there has been quite a bit of discussion from those who live in the CRA, including myself. I live in the CRA, about wanting this amenity added. And Chris Forehand, can I put you on the spot? Can you add any information to this for the rest of the board? Just some of the thoughts behind the reuse water, the feasibility in the CRA. Thank you for jumping up on that.
And I think we talked about this maybe 6 months ago when Mr. Walker originally brought it up. There is about 500,000 gallons a day that goes to the bay. And so we're in the process of designing 2 reuse pump stations, one at the Mill Bayou development and then upgrading the existing plant at the sports park. And so the plan is to take that reuse over to those new pump stations, and we would then distribute that water to those newer subdivisions that currently have reuse systems in place, because there is a shortage there. And your land development code requires that all new developments must have reuse. So we have to take that water from the plant that we're discharging to the bay and send it to those developments. So at some point, there's some happy medium. If there's water left over, then we can turn around and send that water to some of the older neighborhoods, in the CRA. So it is something we can look at. It's just right now, it's probably cost prohibitive.
So what we're asking on possible action is that we're saying that it's cost prohibitive at this time, and so you're recommending to the board that they not add this to the budget of this year?
I'm not
Not you,
recommending-
but I mean, this is the recommendation from staff or from the CRA director. Is that your understanding?
My understanding, yes, ma'am, we cannot afford to do that at this time due to the fact of lack of water sometimes, as well as infrastructure and having to repave and just not enough area to put the line.
Okay. Commissioner Barnes, did that address your question?
Yeah, so
Okay.
basically, there's nothing we can do.
Nothing to do. Right.
So we're not, sorry, Mayor, if I
No,
may.
go ahead, please.
So are we just, is he just asking to add it to the CRA plan? I mean, because I know that we have plans without without money. Is that what we're asking for? Like just to add it to the plan, or are we just?
It is a definite item to think about with the overall CRA board plan, especially what Mr. Walker mentioned during his
reuse.
talk during the workshop was about the possible CRA part out at the fuel depot, adding more area there. So hopefully it'll be a lot more water. Sometimes we run out of water currently. So, we're not to that point yet to have something.
Okay.
Mayor, if I may?
Yes.
If that being the case, then I withdraw my motion.
You do what?
Withdraw my motion.
You withdraw the motion. Okay. Thank you, Chris Forehand. So the motion's been withdrawn, and the motion dies. Okay. All right, moving on to item number 4, new business, discussion and possible action of the Highway 390 commercial incentive application for the Oak Tree Building LLC.
This has to deal with the incentive program that you established for businesses along 390 corridor. Depending on what they do, you can look at anywhere from $2,500 to $5,000 to help with their expenses and make sure they stay in the city. It's been a good program. We had Brock Pest Control use it last time. I think Oak Tree Building is wanting to do that this time. Recommendation would be, go forth with that.
Is there a motion that we move forward?
So move.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. I just have one question. Did the CRA Advisory Board feel that this was a good way to move? Anybody, Mr. Walker, anybody from the board? Can you tell me if just a yes or no, were you?
This one, if you're looking at it, was caveated under a problem. The Ace hardware was the problem. Okay, we dealt with that. However, this is a storefront program, not to take anything from what you said, it's exactly right. But before this has to go in effect, the CRA has to rewrite that program to take out some of the ambiguous or controversial subjects. For example, a total of $25,000 would be given to this company for renovations. We felt that that had to be changed. We adapted that for the Ace hardware to get us out of a sticky wicket, okay? So
my question is, was the advisory board in favor of this particular business getting this stipend?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I have to apologize, I don't remember.
Okay, no problem.
But one of the caveats had to be that section had to be.
Okay. In my recollection, this was one of the amounts that we've been giving to all of these businesses who've applied, who met the requirements and the recommendations. So, trying to bring that business there. Commissioner Russell?
Mayor, if I may, if you remember the last CRA meeting, we had the discussion about Ace Hardware. And I think I was one of the ones that suggested that the CRA needs to develop a formula on
Yes.
how to come up with that money.
Yes.
I would suggest that we come up with that formula before we approve this, because if we approve this, we're going to be in the same situation we were with ACE, and they're going to come back and say, why aren't we getting the full $25,000?
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Anyone?
I would agree
Mr.
with that, but remember, this is two different programs. This is for relocation of a business that's being affected by 390 and coming here, but there probably needs to be, some language tightened up, like Mr. Walker had mentioned. I agree with him 100% because I've read, and that was one of my questions to Ben. So I think this could be an item that you table till next time.
Well,
We have a motion and a second on the floor, though, so.
Mayor, if I may, yeah, this is part of the relocation program. It's not
Yes.
necessarily the incentive program for
storefront, yeah.
rebuilding in the CRA area. So this is simply, and so I guess really, but it does make me have a question also, actually, is didn't the city have the program for the relocation off of 390? So we could put this under there, really,
That's what this is.
but it's under CRA. So that's where I'm getting confused, I guess.
It shouldn't be in.
This really shouldn't be in CRA. This should be under the city's program.
There are two separate, Mayor, if I may, there are two
Yes, go ahead.
separate relocation Highway 390 programs. One is for businesses locating within the CRA, because you can use
Exactly.
CRA
Okay,
funds
that's
for
why.
that.
That's why.
And then there's people locating outside the CRA that are
Still in the city
still in the
limits.
city limits, and you
Correct.
can use city funds for that, but you
And
can't.
since he's staying in the CRA area, that's why it fell under CRA, probably.
But picking up on what Commissioner Friend said, I still tend to agree that this is not a business that's just kind of, building the storefront like Ace Hardware. This is actually a business who's agreeing to relocate and stay within our city, and will be paying taxes in our city, and
Right.
this is an incentive. So I tend to agree with you that it's a little different than just
It's-
someone asking
right.
for storefront money.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with Commissioner Russell at all. That formula needs to be done, and I think that was
Me
one of
too.
the important reasons to have that CRA advisory board, is to help with that formula, so.
So what is the, idea that the commission has on this? Would you like to withdraw the motion and table it, or would you like to proceed? And I'll just leave it up to you.
Yeah, Mayor, I'd like to keep my motion on the floor
Okay.
that we approve this, understanding that it's for the relocation, staying
Okay.
within the CRA area.
Okay, so there's been a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion from the board on this?
What's the maximum amount of money that they're going to be able to collect out of the CRA?
They're asking for 5, is that
That
not
is-
correct?
That is the max for the
They're asking for
relocation.
5? Okay.
Yeah, the relocation max is 5,
Okay.
if I understand it right, if I remember.
Any other discussion from the board?
Mayor, I'd also like to say that I've driven by there,
Uh-huh.
and they've done a fantastic job in remodeling that building and making it look like a professional-looking building. So I do, if there's a representative here from Oakwood, you guys have done a great job, so.
And is there a representative?
And I would even add as well, Mayor, that this is their second location. Their other location that was on the other side of 390, they actually sold, and we did approve for that location for CRA as well. But anyway, so
Okay.
they do a good job. They're a good business partner for Lynn Haven, I think.
Okay.
Oak Tree, I'm sorry, I said Oakwood, it should be Oak Tree.
Yeah.
Anyone from the public have a comment or question? Okay, at this time, then, Mr. White, would you, is the board complete with your discussion? I'm sorry. Okay, Mr. White, if you would please call the roll.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes? Aye. Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes. And so we have approved this oak tree building with the $5,000 because it is part of the movement from 390, the relocation, and keeping in mind, Commissioner Russell, that we are looking at that policy and that the CRA Advisory Board is bringing about. Thank you. Item number 5, this is discussion and possible action regarding the CRA Deputy Director position. Is there a staff report on this before we begin with a motion or a second?
Yes, I had a discussion with Ben about this, and I also had a discussion with Mr. Hotchkins about this. From my standpoint, looking at the CRA, I cannot, as your city manager, approve that you look at hiring a deputy director right now. One, Ben mentioned to me that he does not need the help, and number 2, the CRA currently does not fund his whole salary, so that would leave a lot more expense on the CRA, thus reducing the amount of projects that can be done. As alluded to earlier in the workshop, the fund has subsided quite a bit. There's not a lot of money in there. I think we need to try to build that back up some and look for projects that are advantageous to the CRA area.
Okay, so the city manager is recommending to the board that the funding is not available for this position. Excuse me. Are there any other staff comments, or are there any comments from the advisory board that you would like to bring up to this board? It can be a citizen's comment as well, but you are on the advisory board as well, though, are you not?
I cannot speak for the advisory board.
You can speak for yourself.
I speak for myself.
You were at the meeting.
You're correct on that assumption, not assumption, but that is a relocation. There are 2 particular separate issues, and if it stays with the relocation, that's fine.
Okay, if we can stay with the deputy director, we've got to stay with this item right now. It's the discussion and possible, I'm sorry if I didn't say this
Okay.
correctly.
Okay.
Discussion and possible action regarding the CRA deputy director position. If you can give us some information regarding what the CRA advisory board thought about adding this position.
We had lengthy discussions on this. This has been brought up a long time. The advisory board, I cannot tell you what they did.
I just want to know what they said, like,
Well, they discussed it with me, and
okay,
you were there at the time, too. Most of the facts were given out that exactly right, like the city manager has finally, we've discovered, that Mr. Ben, our director, was underused. If you look back in some of his past, I call them worksheets, or where he was appraised, it was noted that he could not take on too many tasks at once. That, I hope, has changed.
Okay, Mr. Walker, I don't mean to, what I'm asking.
I'm speaking as a citizen and as advisory.
Okay, well,
board.
let me ask you from the advisory board meeting, would you say that the majority of the board members were in favor or opposed to having this deputy director position? That's what I need to know. Did you vote on it? Did you talk about it? Were there 2 people for it, 3 people against it? Can you just give me that information?
To answer your question,
Thank you.
yes, the advisory board was in agreement with the chairman to establish a director.
Awesome.
Deputy director.
I just needed that information. I'm not saying I would agree with it or not, I just wanted to know what they said.
Now,
And the board needed to know that as
with
well.
explanation of that.
Okay,
Let me
perfect.
explain this.
Okay,
Most decisions, the majority are compromises for the betterment of the group.
sure.
Okay. Further information should have been told to the advisory committee. It was not. However, it's been noted, and the city manager has said it, Ben was doing other jobs other than what was part of CRA.
Okay,
We now are going to adopt incorrectly another group of CRA. That is a lot of work that's going to be imposed on him, okay?
okay.
If he stays director of
Got
both,
it, got it.
that's fine. He's going to be working. Therefore, most observations were that he does not need a deputy director.
Okay,
He is underused in his present occupation. That has been noted by most city managers and most individuals. He's going to get the good test when we pull the fuel depot in, okay?
so if
So
I'm.
therefore, as a citizen,
Okay,
I'm looking at this and saying that he does not need a deputy director.
okay, so thank you very much. So what I heard from Mr. Walker is that he's saying as a citizen, that he believes, based on his experience as both a board member and a citizen, that he doesn't think so. I got that. But basically, there were several members of the advisory board who thought he did. I just wanted the board to have that information as we go forward. So thank you. That answers my question.
Mayor, if I may?
You may ask, yes,
I
or
would-
comment.
This is actually directed toward the board. I was on the
Thank you.
CRA advisory board prior to becoming a commissioner.
Sure.
And I was one of the ones that was a proponent for him having an assistant.
Okay,
But like Mr. Walker said, that was before I realized, I mean, at that time, I was not aware that he was splitting his duties between the city. You know, I thought that he was encompassed in doing everything for the CRA.
okay.
In hindsight, I would have to say I would change my opinion and think that he doesn't need an assistant.
Does not or does?
Does not.
Does not. Okay, Mr. Walker, thank you for the information. That helped us a
No.
lot. Anyone
learn a lot.
Anyone else from the board want to comment on this before? Okay, is there a motion regarding what we should do as far as approving or not approving the CRA deputy director position in the budget? Or are we just not making a motion? Okay, item number 5 is just going to lie there without a motion to go forward, so that takes care of that item. Moving on to item number 6. This is resolution number 2017-09-01, adopting a tentative CRA agency budget for fiscal year 2017-2018. Mr. White, do you have a report or comments before we ask for a motion?
No, ma'am.
You need to read the resolution first. I apologize. I didn't ask for that.
Okay, resolution number 2017-09-01. A resolution adopting a tentative budget for the Lynn Haven Community Redevelopment Agency for the fiscal year 2017-2018 and appropriating for the purposes specified redevelopment trust funds and amounts specified for disbursement according to said budget for the fiscal year 2017-2018.
Thank you. Are there any other comments that you would like to make about that before you?
No, ma'am,
Resolution.
it was in the workshop.
Okay.
So it'd be
Okay.
the same budget.
Okay.
Initiated.
Is there a motion for accepting the CRA agency budget for fiscal year 2017-2018?
Move approval.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any comments or questions from the board? Any comments or questions from the public? Yes, ma'am.
John Ork, 1106 Michigan Avenue. I just suggest that you reflect on the incorrect numbers. I'm assuming they're incorrect, and correct those before adopting the budget.
Yes, ma'am, they will be looked at.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. If you didn't hear that, it's just reviewing the question that was asked earlier about the FICA information to make sure that that is correct, and that will be done before. Any other questions?
I have a question, Mayor. So are we wanting to vote on the CRA budget now? Is
Yes.
that what you're asking?
Yes.
Instead of waiting until we get everything changed?
It was just one item.
Okay.
It was just there was a difference. They weren't sure if the formula was correct on that one particular item, and they're going to look at it again and verify that it's correct, and if it's not correct, so it won't be a large amount, it'll just be a correction.
Am I correct in assuming that this CRA budget will still have to come before the commission?
This
be
is just
approved.
tentative.
This is the CRA board. The commission sits as the CRA board, so the CRA board is approving the budget and recommending it to the commission, and then later on today, you'll pass the CRA budget as a city commission.
Any other questions? Okay, Mr. White, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Barnes?
Aye.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes. So we will present this to the commission at the commission meeting. Moving on to item number 7, the CRA Advisory Board comments. Are there any further comments concerning the CRA Advisory Board today? We good? Moving on to number 8, public commentary. This is a time for anybody who'd like to speak to any item, any concern about the CRA Board. This is your opportunity. Yes, go ahead.
1 minute, you've lost a minute. Just quick, on the reuse water, that program was brought up purposely because the CRA area has been slighted for 15 years. That's why we set up the CRA, to take care of that area. And reuse water was denied to this area for all these years, under the same reasoning that you don't have pumps, you don't have money or anything to take it here. CRA water is pumped from the sewer up to the ballpark, back down from the ballpark to 17th Street, slights this area completely. That's why we wanted to bring it onto the CRA plan. That's all we wanted to do, to bring it in there, just like you said. That's all we wanted to do to satisfy the citizens of this area, which was what the CRA was set up for.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Other comments? Okay, at this time, the CRA Board meeting is adjourned, and we will take a 5-minute recess before moving into the City Commission meeting. Thank you.